The highest form of power is when no one knows you hold it. Sun Tzu. Before we begin, here's a small ritual. Write in the comments one word that accurately describes your current state. Sign it, and let's get started. You've done everything right. You worked on yourself, read the books, went to therapy, tried to be kind, positive, reasonable, and yet something's still wrong. There's this dull, aching void that never leaves, a fatigue you can't sleep off, a quiet voice asking, "What's the point?" I see that voice. I lived with it. For years, you think it's depression or burnout. But no, it's betrayal. The world promised you that if you followed the rules, you'd feel whole. But you don't. You feel hollow, controlled, disconnected from yourself. Let me tell you the truth that no one wants to say. They taught you to be manageable, not powerful. You were trained to obey, not to lead. Conditioned to smile, not to feel. Raised to avoid conflict, not to master it. And now, you're exhausted from playing roles that were never yours. But hear this, your pain is not a malfunction. It's a signal. It's your inner self knocking on the walls of the cage you were taught to call a life. I am Sun Tzu, and what I teach is not war. It is not manipulation. It is not domination. What I teach is how to reclaim the authority over your mind, your body, your destiny. The art of war was never about conquering others. It was about mastering the battlefield within, because every external war is only a mirror of the inner chaos. And you cannot lead armies, or relationships, or businesses, or families until you lead yourself. What does power really mean? It's not aggression, not control, not pretending you're fearless. True power is stillness in chaos, silence in noise, presence in conflict, awareness in reaction. It is when the world pushes and you do not flinch, not because you're numb, but because you've already faced your own shadow. That's what no one tells you. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to meet yourself. The part of you you've buried. The part you were told was too much, too intense, too dark. That part is not your weakness. It is your gateway to strength. The enemy is not out there. It never was. The real war happens in the places you avoid, in your silence, your guilt, your hidden rage. If you keep running from it, it rules you. If you turn and face it, you become sovereign. You've been conditioned to chase peace by avoiding conflict. But the truth is, peace only comes when conflict is no longer your master. And this is the first step. If this resonates with you, subscribe to this channel so more people can hear the truth they were never told. And if you're ready to go deeper, join our Telegram. That's where we speak the language most are afraid of. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your pain isn't something to escape. It's something to listen to. It holds the key to your power, but only if you stop running. Let's begin. Understood. Below is part 2, tightly written in dense paragraphs, approximately 3,000 characters, no line breaks, no commentary. They told you to focus on being kind, to always see the good, to forgive, to let go. But they never taught you what to do with the part of you that doesn't want to, the part that remembers the betrayal, the shame, the humiliation. They told you to be light, but they never taught you how to hold your darkness. And without that, every smile you force becomes a mask. Every positive thought becomes a prison. You try to convince yourself you've healed, but deep inside, the war is still raging. You read the self-help books, you repeat the affirmations, you journal, meditate, perform the rituals, but nothing pierces the numbness. You're not weak, you're not lazy, you're not broken. You were just given the wrong map, and that map was designed to keep you obedient, not awakened. not powerful, not whole. That's the part most psychologists won't tell you. Healing isn't about erasing pain. It's about confronting the part of you that's been silenced. The part that wanted to scream, to fight, to say no, to walk away, to demand. But instead, you learn to shrink, to apologize, to please, because that's what kept you safe. And now, decades later, the same patterns run your life. You're praised for being nice, while inside, you're furious. You're admired for being selfless, while inside, you feel invisible. And the longer you betray yourself in the name of peace, the more war you create within. I saw this in every ruler I ever advised, every general who came to me for victory. They all wanted strategies for domination, but I gave them one truth. If you have not conquered your inner dissonance, you will lose, even when you win. You will sabotage every triumph. You will ruin every moment of closeness. You will push away the very things you beg for. Not because you want to, but because you've been programmed to believe you don't deserve them. That's not psychology, that's survival. But survival is not life. And repeating your trauma in every relationship is not strength, it's entrapment. You see, they sell you the fantasy that all you need is to believe in yourself. But belief means nothing if you're building on top of denial. You can't build self-worth on top of shame you won't face. You can't build power on top of wounds you keep pretending don't hurt. You can't build truth when half your life is a performance. Most systems want to keep you in this loop, consuming solutions that avoid the real problem. Because if you actually faced your shadow, you'd stop being predictable, controllable, profitable. But once you see the mechanism, it can't control you anymore. That's why people fear awakening. Not because it's painful, but because once you know, you can't go back. You can't pretend. You can't betray yourself without consequence. And that is terrifying, but also freeing. Because when you see it clearly, you reclaim choice. And that is where power begins, not in controlling others, but in no longer being ruled by the programs you didn't choose. This is the quiet revolution. And only those ready to feel the full weight of truth can lead it. Not every heart is ready for that, but yours might be. And if it is, you're not alone. The real battle was never outside of you. It's not in the job you lost, the partner who left, the parent who failed you. The true war is the one you fight in silence, against your own shadow. The part of you learned to hide, the one that gets jealous, angry, bitter, selfish, the one you swore you'd never become. But here's the truth. Until you face it, it owns you. That's what most people don't understand. They try to defeat their darkness by pretending it's not there. But avoidance is not mastery. Suppression is not strength. What you bury becomes what controls you, and what you disown becomes what sabotages your life. I saw this in emperors who had legions at their command, yet feared their own reflection. I watched kingdoms fall, not by foreign armies, but by rulers too proud to confront their inner chaos. Because no matter how many victories you have out there, if you're a slave to your unconscious, you are not free. This is what I taught them. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is your unclaimed power. It holds the anger you were not allowed to feel, the grief you weren't safe to express, the fire you were told to put out. And that fire, if you learn to carry it, becomes presence, intensity, leadership. That is the root of charisma. Not the performance, not the charm, not the fake confidence, but the calm of someone who has faced themselves and no longer flinches. People follow that, not because you speak loudly, but because your silence carries weight. Not because you smile, but because your eyes don't lie. Not because you say the right words, but because your energy says, "I've been to hell and I didn't run." This is the art they never taught you: to become undeniable without forcing, to influence without controlling, to command without shouting. True power doesn't announce itself, it simply is. But to reach it, you have to die to the persona you built to survive. You have to let the mask slip. You have to become deeply honest about who you are when no one's watching. That's where leadership begins, in the parts you wish no one could see. That's why most people will never become sovereign, because it's easier to be liked than to be free. It's easier to be accepted than to be real. But if you're still listening, you're not like most people. Something in you already knows this path is not about looking good. It's about becoming whole. And wholeness demands that you sit with the parts you were taught to abandon, until you can hold your own rage without hurting, your own fear without hiding, your own truth without apologizing. That is the way of invisible force, the way of silent power, the path of the shadowed king. And it begins the moment you stop pretending. Understood? Below is part 4, tightly written, approximately 3,000 characters, structured in dense, uninterrupted paragraphs as required. Power is not what you think it is. It's not status, attention, money, or the ability to control others. It's not being the loudest voice in the room, nor the one with the sharpest sword. Real power is invisible. It doesn't shout. It moves beneath the surface, like a river that carves through mountains over time. That's what I discovered, not by reading books, but by watching the fall of men who thought they were gods. Every general wanted tactics. Every ruler asked for strategy. But what I gave them was discipline of the self. Because no tactic survives contact with inner chaos. And no strategy works if your own mind is your enemy. Let me give you what they begged me for. A path, 7 steps, not theory, not philosophy, practice. And if you follow them, you will command not just respect, but reality itself. Step 1, locate your shadow. That means finding the voice within you that you've tried to silence. The one that gets angry when you're disrespected, jealous when you're overlooked, afraid when you're alone. Don't argue with it. Listen. That voice is not your enemy. It's your wounded soldier, the one who kept you alive. Step 2, study your patterns. How you react when you feel powerless. How you manipulate, avoid, freeze, or attack. Trace the thread. Every reaction is a survival map, written long before you had words. Read it. Step 3, pause before response. This is Warcraft. Every time you want to act, don't. Observe. In stillness, the truth reveals itself. Those who react instantly are not powerful. They are possessed. Step 4, speak less, reveal less. Not from fear, but from strategy. The more you talk, the more you expose your weakness. Those who hold mystery are trusted by time. Step 5, learn to lead yourself emotionally. This means holding space for your own grief, your rage, your longing, without leaking it onto others. Contain your energy. The world senses when a person governs their own fire. Step 6, own your hunger. Not suppress it, not shame it, own it. Whether it's for love, power, peace, sex, truth, stop hiding. Hunger that is denied becomes corruption. Hunger that is owned becomes magnetism. Step 7, choose who enters your kingdom. Stop begging to be seen. You are the gatekeeper. Not everyone deserves your presence, your words, your body, your mind. Select, filter, protect. These 7 are not ideas. They are tools. If you use them, you will stop being at the mercy of emotion, of people, of the world. You will become the eye of the storm. And the world, unable to explain you, will begin to follow you. Not because you asked, but because you remembered who you are. And that is a force no one can imitate. Most people believe war is violence, that victory means destruction. But those are illusions kept alive by men who never mastered themselves. The greatest victories I witnessed didn't require a single drop of blood. The most powerful rulers I advised won battles long before they began. Because they understood this. War is not fought on the field. It's decided in the mind. I remember a ruler, feared across provinces, who came to me trembling, not because of an army, but because he couldn't sleep at night. He had control over his people, yet none over his own thoughts. I told him what I'll now tell you. If you don't own your inner world, your outer world will own you. His rage wasn't strength. It was an armor hiding his fear. His charisma wasn't influence. It was performance fueled by shame. And every decision he made came not from clarity, but from the noise within. That noise is what destroys empires, not enemies, not armies. Internal confusion. This is why I taught him silence. Not to retreat, but to listen. To his own instincts, his breath, his impulses. When he stopped reacting and started observing, everything changed. He began to see people's motives without them speaking. He could enter a room and shift its direction without raising his voice. Not because he demanded power, but because he embodied stillness. That is the art of invisible command. People think influence comes from speaking well. Number influence comes from presence, from the energy of someone who has walked through their own chaos and made peace with it. When you do that, people trust you without knowing why. They follow not your words, but your essence. That's how I negotiated peace between warlords who had sworn to die fighting. I didn't speak of treaties. I showed them their reflection. I made them see how their need to dominate came from the fear of being unseen. And when they saw that, the war lost its grip. Not every conflict can be resolved this way, but most wars, personal or political, are just battles between wounded egos pretending to be strong. The real leader doesn't fight that war. He dissolves it by no longer feeding the wound, by refusing to play the role of the reactive child, by becoming the calm father of his own chaos. That's what I teach, and that's why my name endured. Not because I mastered battle, but because I mastered silence. Control without force, direction without pressure. That's the power you're remembering right now. And once you taste it, there's no going back. This path is not about philosophy. It's about action. Inner mastery is not some abstract idea reserved for monks or warriors. It's practical. It's real. It begins in the smallest decisions, in how you breathe during tension, how you speak when your pride is wounded, how you move when no one is watching. You want to grow? Start there. You want to lead? Begin with this. Observe yourself without judgment. Every time you feel triggered, pause. Don't ask, why am I like this? Ask, what part of me is trying to speak? That is the voice of your shadow. And if you listen to it, it will guide you to truth. Keep a record, not of your successes, but of your reactions, your emotional storms, your silent shutdowns. This becomes your battlefield journal, your book of patterns. Within weeks, you'll begin to see what controls you, and from that comes power. Next, track your projections. Every time you feel intense emotion towards someone, positive or negative, ask what part of yourself is being mirrored. The one who annoys you probably reflects something you deny in yourself. The one you idealize likely carries a trait you've disowned. When you reclaim these traits, you stop being reactive. You become centered. That's how you reclaim your energy. That's how you stop leaking your power into conflict. And then, learn to sit. Not meditate, not dissociate. Simply sit, in stillness, with your impulses, discomfort, urges. Observe without acting. This is the forge, the place where raw emotion transforms into awareness. It is brutal, but it works. And in that stillness, something awakens. Clarity. Not the kind that shouts, the kind that whispers in your bones, that tells you when to speak, when to walk away, when to act with precision. This clarity is the core of presence, and presence cannot be faked. From here, your words begin to land. Your energy starts to shape rooms, not because you try, but because you're congruent. That's influence. That's charisma. That's what people call magnetism without knowing what it is. It's not mystery. It's integration. A person who no longer hides from themselves naturally becomes a force. And people feel it. They don't always like it, but they feel it, and they respect it. If you want to walk this path, don't seek to be impressive. Seek to be honest. Don't try to appear strong. Learn to sit in your weakness until it becomes strength. Don't demand loyalty. Embody stability, and those who are ready will follow you without asking why. This is not performance. This is transformation. And it happens in private, long before anyone sees the results. So start now, in silence, in truth, and watch how the world begins to move differently around you. If I could pass down only one thing, it wouldn't be a tactic, it would be clarity. Because without clarity, power corrupts. Without clarity, desire consumes. Without clarity, every victory leads to emptiness. That's why my legacy was never about warfare. It was about alignment between thought, word, and action, between inner state and outer result, between who you are and what you build. So if you truly want to realize your goals, not in years, but in focused seasons, then listen carefully. These are not secrets. These are principles. They are not hard, but they are rare. First, define the exact outcome you want and strip it of fantasy. Don't say, I want success. Say, I want to create this exact result in this exact time frame. Vagueness is the enemy of power. The mind obeys clarity. Second, understand timing. Force destroys. Patience positions. Most people rush because they don't believe they can have it. You must act with urgency, but without hurry. Master the moment, not the clock. Third, study the terrain. In any goal, there are people, systems, and hidden rules. Know who holds the keys. Know what feeds the system. Know what patterns repeat. The one who sees the map wins without struggle. Fourth, neutralize your emotion before you act. This does not mean suppress. It means regulate. Feel fully, then choose cleanly. Most sabotage happens when emotion drives action. True warriors wait until the waters settle. Fifth, conceal your depth. Share your heart with the worthy, but your strategy with no one. Not out of fear, out of respect for power. The more you speak, the less you are heard. Sixth, move with impact. Do not take 10 small actions. Take one precise one. Study, prepare, focus, then strike with such clarity that results follow naturally. Most waste time performing effort instead of producing outcomes. Seventh, measure energy, not just progress. If the path drains you, it's not mastery, it's distortion. Real power leaves you more still, more centered, more alive. Track that. These are not theories, They built dynasties, healed nations, saved leaders from ruin. And if you apply them, they will bend time in your favor. This is how you begin to bend the world, not through force, but through presence, not through manipulation, but through alignment. You don't need more strength. You need more accuracy. That is the art of true power. And now, it's yours. If this video spoke to your truth, subscribe to the channel. Let's make sure more people hear what they've never been told. And join our Telegram. That's where we go even deeper into everything others are afraid to say. If you recognized yourself in these words, write in the comments, "I no longer run from pain." Let's see how many of us are ready for truth. If you feel like it's time to face your shadow, write, "My darkness is my power." Let's create a community that doesn't flinch. If you're done playing roles, write, "I remove the mask." Let's find out who's really here. If this video changed something in you, write, "I embrace my shadow." Write it as a promise to yourself. This is not the end. It's the door, and you just stepped through it. Welcome.